one of our own.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Marco Gonzalez. Many of you may know me. I'm a lawyer here in town at the Modrell Sperling Law Firm, and back in 2008, I ran for the Republican primary nomination for the 3rd District, and now we're thankfully led in the next fight by Mr. Boyd, and hopefully he'll show good results. I'm as part of some of my free time, now that I'm practicing law again, I've been on the board of Christus St. Vincent's for a little over 2.5 years, and I thought it would be a good idea, as many of you and the Republican Party members are leaders in their community and talk to a lot of people, and we're very interested in talking with you about what's going on at Christus St. Vincent's, and we want to hear from you about what you believe is going on at Christus St. Vincent's, and also answer any questions. I've been very proud to serve on the board of Christus for the 2.5 years that I've been there. I've learned quite a bit about its impact in the community, and many of us hear about the impact of Christus St. Vincent's, both positively and in some people's opinion negatively, through our papers. And so I think what we want to do today is just to be able to talk with you about what we believe is going right with us, and hear from you about what you believe are the issues that we need to address. And I just want to encourage you to ask absolutely any question that you have, and without any sort of reservation upon yourself about, maybe embarrassing us in somehow, because it's a difficult question, and just to have a freewheeling discussion at the end in terms of, trying to answer as much as we can about what your insights are about the hospital, and what, you would like to see done, what you understand, and just to kind of really open a dialogue, because Christus is part of our community. We're all going to visit the hospital at some point, and we want you to know what it is that we're doing to make the people that we serve in our community, that they get good care, and that, we be an effective and a good member of our community. So I'm going to just kind of listen to what's going on. I'm going to introduce Lillian Montoya. She's our Vice President for Public Policy and Community Outreach, and very key and important person at the hospital. And she's going to introduce her team. And then thanks so much for coming. I want to thank Samuel, everybody, for really helping us organize this. And if there's any other follow-up questions that you have that you don't get, we'll stay afterward for a little bit and make sure that we're able to converse with you about anything we can't cover before the time is up. So thanks so much for coming in. Lillian, here you go.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having us here tonight, and mostly thanks for coming out on a work night to have a conversation about the hospital. I'm going to introduce you to my colleagues. We have Pearl Monkern. She's our VP of Human Resources. We have Mary Jo Metzger, who's our Director for Laboratory Services at the hospital. We have Lee Jackson, who's the Director for Nursing Operations. And then Arturo Delgado back here is our Director for Marketing and Communications. Jill Feinberg is our Coffee Coordinator, and I'll tell you a little bit about that. So if it's okay with you all, how about I just do like a quick 10-minute overview of the hospital so we have more time for questions. That way folks don't have to stay all night, but we can get right to what people care about. Okay, so let me give you a little bit of background on these community conversations. We're calling them coffees. We launched them a month ago, half ago, at the 1st of May. The goal to get through 40 to 50 of them in 2 months. And I'll tell you why. The hospital has never done this before. There was a much needed pent-up demand and desire to have a conversation with the hospital and vice versa. Instead of just relying on the papers or one-on-one or just our employees, we knew we needed to come out into the community. So our board members and our foundation board members got us started by hosting coffees in their home or their business. And then after a while, we started having volunteers like our auxilians, you all, and others that have said, you know what, we'll host a coffee. The purpose of our coffees is to bring you up to date as to what we're doing at the hospital. We are on a quality journey, and I tell folks the hospital you know today is different than the hospital from 10 years ago or 5 years ago or even last year. And with the affordable care environment, it is changing more and more every day. We're learning things we didn't know what to expect even a year ago. So this will tell you about the hospital, how we're different. It's to hear your stories, perspectives, and ideas on how we might improve. And what I tell folks is because the hospital has changed so much over the years, although your stories are very important to us, and Jill will have feedback cards to capture your questions that might not get answered or concerns, and please fill that card out at the end of the day. It's so helpful to us when we hear about an experience you've had at the hospital in the last year and a half. Because things are changing so quickly, we need to learn from the things that we're doing well, so we continue to do them well and we hardwire it, and the things that we have to improve, that's where we put our attention. Our commitment to you from the coffees, and bear in mind we've exceeded the 1,000 people mark already that we've talked to in the last month and a half. Our commitment is that we meet as an executive team every Tuesday, and we talk about what did we learn at last week's coffees, so that we can put in place real-time fixes, but mostly so that we can make sure that we listened, we heard, and we did. So at the end of this process, the end of this 2 months, we're going to actually put together a report by July-August timeframe that we share back with the community that says, this is what we heard, this is what we learned, and this is what we did. We're also doing something else. We are going through a process right now, what we call our town halls. They're essentially employee meetings, and we're running 1,900 employees through town halls, 14 of them, over these 2 weeks. So they're running in parallel to our copies. And the whole theme in our town halls, this hour meeting, is about the copies. We're telling them what you are saying. We are telling them what you are feeling. We are sharing with them the patient satisfaction data and quality data, but we want them to remember that the work they do every day is impacting friends, families, and neighbors. We are not a perfect hospital, but we are on a journey for improvement. I dare you to find the perfect hospital or the perfect company, but I can tell you we have a commitment to continuous improvement. And so when we talk about a quality journey, it is so real time. Think about it, 1,900 people working at this hospital, $165 million payroll. They do come to work with good intention. They entered healthcare for good reasons, right? So we're going through dramatic change with healthcare reform, and so the way of work is different. The way hospitals work is different. The way we integrate with providers in the community is different. The pressures being placed on us by Medicare and Medicaid are forcing us to also be different. So from this point forward, or in this past year forward, for example, our Medicare reimbursements will be withheld or reduced based on your ratings on patient satisfaction, what you say about us. They're also evaluated based on quality outcomes. So what we will share with you this evening is that we've made improvements in the quality outcomes. We have some work to do in your perceptions of the quality of care, but we're working with our employees to address that as well. So the hospital itself, how many of you know it's a nonprofit? Yeah? How many of you know it's locally owned? Okay, so it's 50% locally owned. It's one of the very few Christus Health hospitals that remained locally owned. So when we entered into the partnerships, Christus St. Vincent Hospital with Christus Health, we retained 50% ownership. It allows for co-investment by both partners in this hospital. So contrary to what people might say about dollars going to Texas, the dollars actually stay here and are reinvested in this hospital. SBH Support is the local partner. They're the old board of the hospital. They are the co-investor. Half the board is from SBH Support designation, half the board from Christus Health. All but one board member are local. We have one person who's not is a nun, is a sister. Every Christus Health hospital has a sister to make sure that we're adhering to the original principles about providing care to all people regardless of their ability to pay. And so that's one of the traditions that we've maintained within the hospital. As I said, we have 1,900 employees, $165 million payroll. We serve 300,000 people in the 7-county area. How many emergency department visits do you think we had this last year? Pick a number. Okay, 300,000 people in the 7-county area. How many people visited the emergency department? 52,000. 52,000 people. We had 12,000 inpatients. You're going to tell the paper. But it's equal opportunity, right? So for starters, what we did, so I was on the board for 3 years. I came off the board in September into this new role, and one of the issues was around media coverage, and so we had a concerted effort to get the editor and the publisher from the New Mexican to come over and have a tour, really sort of open the dialogue, and their effort to listen. They changed the reporter, so we have a different reporter, but our agreement was that we would be more forthcoming and more, converse more with them when they called. So we're working on that. The same thing with the reporter. But all of this is a work in progress. And, we started the fact ads, the did you knows that you're seeing in the New Mexican, and you're seeing print ads that have our very own people in them. Our strategy is if you start seeing your friends and your neighbors or your coworker's wife or husband in the paper on an ad, you're going to start realizing these people. It's not so easy to be tough on the hospital. But this is where you can help. When you have had that positive experience, send the letter to the editor. And if you let me know that you've sent it and we don't see it show up, I pick up the phone. It's happened 3 times and all of a sudden that letter shows up. I'm just being straight. And then secondly, where you can be really helpful, and we say this to our own staff every day, as I said it this morning in our town hall, when someone says something about the hospital that's negative without based in fact, we need to gently push back and say, that's not been my experience, because usually it noises them out. That's the same in any space. It's not just hospital specific. I found this at Lano when I was there as well. So as soon as you push back, they realize that you're not giving power to the negative, and we need more people in our community to push back. So let me go to Sherry, who hasn't asked. Yes, absolutely. So our work includes print ads and stories with the Journal, the New Mexican, the Reporter, Quesuave Radio. What other publications? Yeah, Arturo, am I missing any? Oh yeah, we're doing our own electronic newsletter. We're being more proactive in op-eds to both papers. And the other thing that I'm doing personally, when people get snarky online, email comments, I'm usually the one that's replying back, because I just don't think that's cool. So I'll say something back. Let me go to you. You haven't asked a question here yet.
I want to use this because I'm often told my voice doesn't carry very far. I have a question. Is the lady that plays the harp, does she still play there? Yes. Okay. Because when I was in, and my wife Rosina was in, that was the best therapy. And like walking Rosina after her 11 days in ICU and everything, up and down the hall, when that lady would play, you could tell the difference in the attitude of the patients. People were just happier, and great therapy, great medicine.
Yeah, thank you. She is there. Yes, sir. Oh, Lee, you're so popular today.
When a patient passes away within the first 24 hours of admission, that is usually referred to the medical examiner. Okay, that's by our requirements by law. And they make a determination if there needs to be an autopsy or something, further discovery into that. The family and the physician can work together if there's a reason to do, say, a postmortem and an autopsy to find out when, and that's done. In some situations where we have adverse events, that is maybe a patient has received an injury or something, we do our own internal investigations and review the causes and facts of why it happens. We hold ourselves accountable, the physicians as well as the nursing staff, as well as any of the departments that may have been involved with that situation. We do internal investigations which well, when we do a chart review, we do review all of those things. The medication. Well, we do look at the medications, how they're prescribed, when they were administered, whether they were omitted or not administered, or if they were administered correctly. We do a lot of internal auditing that way to make sure that we are doing the best quality care for that patient, that if we do have variations, that we do education with our staff. Let me give you an example.
A year ago, March, we started a multidisciplinary quality committee that included pharmacy, nursing, and medicine. So we had pharmacists at the table, we had nursing at the table, and we had physicians at the table to address medication administration and the process of that in some of the medications that we are administering, especially if we had errors in either starting the medication, delivering it, or stopping it. A couple of things happened. It was one of these first multidisciplinary committees that, we put our names, our RN or whatever aside, and we talked about just what is right for the patient and what's right for the workflow of the nurses and the physicians. We changed our medication administration timings, so we standardized it. When we started the committee, we were giving medicines every hour of the day. Nurses were running up and down the hallways giving medicines, not being able to do some of the other things. So we standardized, and it was greatly received both by nursing and physicians, because then patients were getting the medications and they knew when they would be delivered, not just based on when the order was administered. One of the medications we had an issue with is around heparin, which is an anticoagulant. If you had a PE, you were probably on some heparin. But it's a high-risk drug by the federal government and by the Joint Commission. It's a high-risk drug, so we monitor it very closely. We knew that we were having difficulty in starting or giving some boluses this medication because we had 5 different protocols in our electronic medical record that a physician could choose from, but they had to fill out certain things. So again, we had the nursing and medicine sat down in pharmacy, and we rewrote the protocols, standardized them. We standardized the way it was ordered, so there's no variability in how it's ordered for specific things. And then we standardized the nursing protocol, because nursing really does manage it. Laboratory helps us with drawing some lab work to know how effective the medication is being. But what we did is we were having maybe 5 or 6 of those errors a month. And that would be like not starting the drip properly, not doing the double check, all these things. If you're giving this medicine, 2 nurses are checking it off. You can't administer before pharmacy reviews it. So we went from having 5 or so a month to down to having 0. We saw a little bit of uptick in some omissions and some things not going right. We re-educated the staff again, and we're now back down. That was specifically, we did that around medications to make sure that we're administering them correctly, the right dosages, the right time for the right patient. So, and we hold the staff accountable when there are identified errors in giving a medication. We work specifically with a nurse around education, mentoring, coaching, and if required, we do some discipline with them, because some of the nature of the medications they give are very dangerous, and if you don't give them properly, you can have issues. So, does that answer your question?
So I'm going to wrap us up so that you can have the rest of your meeting back. We took it hostage. But let me extend to you our appreciation for taking the time to hear our story, share yours. Please use the cards that Jill is circulating now if you want us to follow up with you on anything that you didn't get to share or would like us to look into. Our commitment is to do our report back to the community. And also, I'd like to extend to your group at some point in the future, probably after August or so, if you would like a tour of the hospital, a group of you, we'd be happy to do that. And then we can bring in our chief medical officer. Our CEO's in Dallas today. He would have been here with us, but I'd really like you to meet Bruce. And again, as I shared early on, we're a work in progress, as a lot of companies are. We believe in continuous improvement, but we really genuinely, authentically are making the progress where it matters most, and wanted you to really understand that. So thank you all.